Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on the qualification reforms for 2024 to 2027. Today, we're going to be looking at the construction portfolio, and I am now going to take you and introduce you to today's panelists whilst we're waiting for others to join the webinar. I do have to note that this webinar is being recorded at home, so please, we apologise in advance if there is any background noise or interference during the webinar. We would certainly try and keep everything on track. Also, with regards to the content of today's webinar, we have tried to make sure that every effort has been made with regards to the accuracy of the information that we're going to share with you today. But please do refer to our web pages, and we have bespoke qualification reform web pages on the City and Guilds website. So with regards to today's webinar, my name is Jason Howe. I'm a technical advisor for construction at City and Guilds, and I'm joined by my technical advisor colleague, Paul Brown, who also supports the construction portfolio. With regards to other construction colleagues, we have Richie West, who is our industry manager, and Nick Taylor, who's also an industry manager. Quite often we are also joined by our colleague Laura Harrop, who is our construction sales representative at City and Guilds. If you do need to get in touch with any of us, our work mobile numbers and email addresses are on the screen for you to access. Don't worry if you haven't got time to write them down. We will share this presentation with attendees today, and you'll also get a copy of the recording. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to go through the cycles and give you a section overview of where construction is going to be. We're going to navigate through the level 3 qualifications and the aim of the level 3 reforms, moving on to the level 2, and again looking at the aim of the level 2 reforms. Then we're going to look at the qualification categories, where we sit, and then looking at what support that we're going to be offering moving forward from 2024 to 2027, including the supporting of the curriculum planning, etc. So where are we on this cycle within construction? So construction is in cycle 1, essentially. So our new level 2 qualifications will be available from September 2025, and you'll see that the other sectors in there that are also going to be serviced in 2025, such as building service engineering, digital, education and childcare engineering, and health and science. And within the columns listed on the screen for 26, 27 and 28, you'll see the different categories and different qualifications or sectors, sorry, that sit within those years. So many of you on the call today may work across different sectors, so please bear this in mind when you're working through. With regards to construction, the qualification handbooks, as much as our qualifications will be launched in 2025, our qualification handbook will be available from September 2024. And myself and my colleague Paul, across today's webinar, will demonstrate how we plan to support you moving forward from September 24 up until September 25 and beyond for your first delivery. So where are we within the level 3? So do we need to condense this? I probably think so. The T levels will be our offer at level 3 for 16 to 18-year-olds. And if you don't know already, the T levels is the primary offer in technical education, and it puts employers and standards at the heart and design of the qualification. So those that may have been involved will know that there was extensive employer involvement in the development of the construction on site T level. Alongside that, we will have new occupational entry qualifications that will be available for 19+ learners also. So please bear this in mind when you are starting and looking at your curriculum planning and looking at delivering level 3s from September 2025, looking at what options will be available to you. So for 16 to 18-year-olds, it will be your T levels that we have in construction on site, and for your adults and 19+, there will be an alternative level 3 qualification that will be available to them. As we move on to the level 2, just looking at the level 2 in a little bit of detail. So alongside your apprenticeships, functional skills, GCSEs, etc., there's 3 main groups of reform qualifications that will receive funding moving forward. And these are to support progression into either further or higher education, or into skilled or entry into skilled employment. So with regards to the level 2 offer, to give you the reassurance, City and Guilds will be in the space for construction. So where we have a level 2 offer currently, we will have a level 2 offer moving forward, as long as it aligns to the standards that are available. So with regards to the 3 categories for the level 2 qualifications, we have ones that support progression into technical study onto level 3. We'll have qualifications that support progression to an academic study at level 3, and then you'll have technical qualification support and entry into employment at level 2. So those are the categories of qualifications that will be available to you. So where will construction sit in this space? So we will have our level 3 technical occupational entry qualifications, and these are aligned and mapped to the standards and needs to meet the entry competence. With regards to our exams, these are externally set and externally marked, and the practical will also be externally set by us at City and Guilds, but that will be internally marked by centres and externally verified. The non-graded, but they are designed to support flexible delivery models, and the GLH will depend on the target market, but we envisage it's going to range from 360 to 1080 GLH. Now I know that sounds like quite a big range, and it is, but more information will be coming out regarding those qualifications moving forward. Then we move on to our level 2 qualifications, and again these are aligned to standards. Similarly as the level 3, they're externally set and externally marked knowledge assessments. Practical, the same, externally set, internally marked and externally verified. And again, it's a non-grading model which is designed to support the flexible delivery. And again, we will have GLH of approximately 360 to 450 GLH. With regards to the level 3, just to touch back on that, where there is a current standard in construction at the minute, so I'll use bricklaying and carpentry and joinery as examples, we will have level 3s in that space. If or when paint and decorating and plastering move into a level 3 space as a standard, we will rectify our level 3 offer to make sure that we have a substantial offer in those sectors or in those trade areas as well. So please don't be alarmed. We will have level 3s in those spaces when the standards are released accordingly. So please bear with us on that one. Next is a T-level foundation qualification. And just some key information on this. These are designed for learners who may not be quite ready for a T-level. And the transition year is essentially designed to support progression to the T-level. But what I would say is it doesn't need to be a mini T-level, and it doesn't need to be achieved in order to progress onto a T-level. So what are the T-level foundation quals? They're based on NTOs, or National Technical Outcomes. They have a grade scale, which is pass, merit, distinction and unclassified, and that is set by Ofqual. A much smaller GLH of 120 to 150. The outcomes in the NTOs can be assessed separately or in a combination. So individual assessments or synoptic can take place with regards to any practical assessments. An achievement of a pass should demonstrate the outcomes in the NTOs through broad coverage of the knowledge and skills that's going to be required. But just to reiterate that bottom point there, they are not intended to be a prerequisite for a T-level. So learners do not have to complete this qualification in order to progress to a T-level. It's just an option that's available to you, and that is the T-level foundation qualification. I hope that information has been useful to you. I'm now going to introduce you to my colleague Paul Brown, who is going to take you through the next set of slides. Thank you very much.
So, Jason, morning everybody. So if we go to the next slide, Jason, that'd be good, please. So probably as you'd expect with these reform qualifications, we've got a dedicated web page, and you can see that on the right hand side. So if you, which most of you probably do, is Google City and Guilds, you'll find that landing page. And as you can see there on the qualifications, you have you click on that and it opens up a tab below, and you can see there in red qualification reforms England and then qualifications explained. So you can click on that qualification reforms, and that takes you to a web page with a lot of information on, and the kind of information that's going to be on that web page. Some is still in development, but nevertheless, some is already there. But it is a live document that we're continually adding to. But the kind of information that you'll find on there is a lot of information about the reforms and the funding updates that are associated with those reforms. So I would suggest that you do have a look at this because certainly in terms of your business planning for next year, which presumably you're probably starting in December, early December, for some of you, then that will give you a kind of useful bit of background information. And there's a series of mini little videos on that as well, covering those reforms, and they're only about 10 minutes or so. They're not long ones. Obviously, you should expect we will have new letters populated on there, and we will do a welcome pack. Our events and webinars such as this are listed on there, and any future events and webinars to do with the reforms across all sectors, to be fair, not just construction, because this is a generic web page, will be on there, so you can be able to see what's coming up in terms of future events, be those face-to-face or indeed webinars, depending on what each sector is going to provide. There will be a learner and parent flyer in terms of, kind of explaining these reforms, so that mum and dad, if you like, and indeed the young people on these new qualifications can get a kind of an understanding of what they are. We will also have a series of resources on there, as you'd expect, and then sectors on a page. A little bit more about that as we go through the slides. Sectors on a page. Effectively, each sector is producing a database, if you like, of qualifications specific to their sector. So in our case, construction, over the next few years. But I'm going to come back to that on a slide that's coming up shortly. And then obviously, as you know, Jason and I are technical advisors, and we will be supporting the construction onboarding of these reform qualifications, level 3, 2, as you would expect. And there will be an FAQ, because like anything that's new, there's always a series of questions, and some of those are generic in nature and some are specific, and that is fine. So that landing page will eventually contain quite a lot of information, but there is already quite a bit of information on there, guys. So if you have got some time, click on it and have a look and see what's available, and give some useful kind of background information. If we could move on, please. So what we're going to have a look at now is to support you in planning, if you like, for the construction curriculum delivery from 2024 to 2027. So on the previous slide, we had that sector on a page, which I mentioned, and this is just a snippet of what it is. Effectively, it covers from 2023 to now through to 2026. And what it will have on there, it's all the qualifications, and our qualification portfolio is huge, as you're probably aware, but it'll cover all the qualifications that you can access from 2023, so now, through to 2026. And as you go through them, you'll notice that some are replaced. And I've got a following slide, which is kind of going to work you through that, a kind of an overview, if you like. So a little bit more about that to follow. But this will be a very useful document because it lists the qualifications under each of the years that are available. And like some qualifications, we may well maintain, even though they're not necessarily funded, but there's an opportunity to maintain them. And again, that will be made very clear in these documents, what is funded, what is potentially not funded, but still available. So we'll call it sector on the page. For construction, it's sector on several pages because the portfolio is so large. But we think that will be a really valuable document, and it will cover, obviously, the aim is to cover the level 2 and level 3 reforms. And we're expecting that to be available probably late November, certainly in time for when, as I previously mentioned, you're probably starting to business plan maybe late November, beginning of December through to maybe February, March time potentially for September 2024 start. So I think you will find that a very useful document. And within that document, as you can probably see, it's a combined construction and building services, so it will cover building services as well in that one kind of document. If we could move on to the next one, please, Jason. Right, so okay. So what we've done here, we've created a slide through 2024, because that's when changes start to implement, through to 2027. So as you can see on the left hand side, we've got 16 to 19 and 19 plus. So adults is below that line. So if you look at 2024, you can see there for level 1, no change, basically as is now. For level 2, again, no change, basically as is now, but there is a change for the level 3, it's T levels. So the T levels will be the only funded level 3 qualification available for centres to use in the main trades, as you know, the bricklayers, the painters, the carpenters, the plasterers. So it will be the T level will be your only option. And I think, to be fair, most of you are aware of that. So that's identified there in bold. When you continue then to look at 2024 in terms of adults, as you can probably picked up already, that for level 1, level 2 and level 3, again, it's as is this year. So there's no change to that offer at that point in time. But as you move to 2025, you can see if you go to 16 to 19 again, your level 1 quals as is, but the new level 2, which Jason previously mentioned, the new level 2 reformed qualifications will be available for you as a centre to use. And likewise at level 3, as we previously mentioned, you've only got the option of the T level at level 3. But again, if we then go to the 19 plus, so below the line, you see the level 1 no change for adults, but the new level 2 reform qualifications will be funded. You need to be using those, obviously, and then the level 3 reform qualifications will also be in. So there's 2 additional changes for the adults in that space in 2025. So there'll be new reformed level 2 qualifications and new reformed level 3 qualifications for the adults to access. And then as we move along to 2026, you can see again for 16 to 19, level 1 quals as is. Level 2 reform qualifications are in place as they were in 2025, and of course you've got your level 3 T levels. And likewise, in terms of adults, your level 1 is as is, and your level 2 and level 3 reform quals again as previous year. So we've got some stability in that period of time, but a little bit more. I'll pick that up in a minute. Just want to mention something about that. And then 2027, as you can see, for 16 to 19, level 1 reform qualifications will be in place. And then you've got the full suite. You've got reformed level 1 qualifications, you've got reformed level 2 qualifications, and you've got the level 3 T level for the age group. And then for adults, as you can see below the line, the level 1 reform qualifications for adults, the level 2 reform qualifications for adults, the level 3 reform qualification for adults, and to be confirmed, potentially for adults, the level 3 T level for the adults to be able to access. Now, there's a caveat to all this, guys. This is what we believe to be the position so far, but obviously it can change. It can be subject to change because government changes their mind. Sometimes timescales are extended. Sometimes changes are made that no one's aware of as of today, but they indeed do happen. And if I give you the real life example of the T level at level 3, that originally was going to come into force in September 2023, i.e. this academic year, but the government moved it on along another year, hence why it's being introduced for September 2024 academic year. So that's just a real life example of how things can change. So we're kind of wait and see, but that is an overview, if you like, of how things are going to change in terms of the construction portfolio for both those age groups And as I said, the sector on the page that we previously mentioned will give you that detail of what qualifications fall under those particular years, as you will see when they become available to you. If we could move it on, please, Jason. So just to kind of finish up, just some contacts, customer support there. As you, again, most of you are aware of this, but there's an email there for you to be able to access if you want some support or need some assistance in terms of the reforms, or to be fair, in generic of anything really. As you know, there's a telephone number there as well. You can see when the lines are open. But what I wanted to do was just mention, you can see there, how can I stay informed and get more involved? So one important thing that we've been asked to do as part of these reforms is we do need to have letters of demand from centres. So basically that will be a letter from a provider saying, yes, we require the level 2, and this is focusing on level 2 at this stage because that's what we're developing. Level 3 will follow. But for level 2 reform qualifications, yes, we have a demand for level 2 bricklaying, level 2 carpentry and joinery, level 2 plastering, level 2 painting and decorating. So we will be fairly soon sending out to some colleagues who are on this call, and others who are not, potentially will be sending out a request for a letter of demand. To assist you in that, we have got a document to support you in what needs to be in that letter of demand. So it's not letter of support, it's a letter of demand. So it's demand for the new level 2 reform qualifications. And it's a useful guide because we're no longer able to give you a pro forma. Again, not a change we've instigated, it's a change instigated on us. So we can't do a pro forma and just get you to populate it. Hence why we've got the guide. So some of you or your heads of department, if you're not heads who are on this call, will receive potentially a request for that letters of demand. And what will be attached to that letters of demand is purpose statements, what we're calling purpose statements. And they will cover the 5 trade areas that we're looking at level 2. So it will cover the bricklayers, it will cover the carpenters, it will cover the paint and decorators, the plasterers, and also maintenance operations as well. And this purpose statement, what it does, it gives you kind of an overview, initial overview of what the qualification is going to look like. It doesn't give you the detail as such. As Jason mentioned, that'll be in handbooks, which will be available for you September 2024, as Jason previously mentioned. But what it does do, it gives you kind of that high level overview of what the reform quals looks like. So I'll talk about who the qualification is for. It will talk briefly about what the qualification covers, and it will also, obviously, as you would expect, where the qualification provide opportunities for progression. So where can the learners progress when they've done these level 2 reform qualifications? There'll be a section on why choose these qualifications in the first place. And then it will get into the number of units that are going to be within the qualification. It will list the unit titles within the qualifications, and it will give the GLH, the guided learning hours for each of those units. And it will also give you the total GLH for the qualification in its entirety. If there are any entry requirements, then that will be provided. It'll talk about the assessment, what the assessment strategy is going to be. That typically could be multi-choice and practical, obviously, in our game, as you know, guys. It'll talk about the grading, which Jason's already mentioned. It's a pass or a fail type situation. Because of the reform qualifications, again, not our doing, but you would need to have full approval. So you need to apply for approval for these qualifications at this particular point in time. Again, if that changes, then clearly we'll let colleagues know. And also mention about support materials, so sample assessments, qualification handbooks, which Jason previously mentioned. It'll talk about the kind of range of support material. Now, as you know, at Sitting Guilds, we do provide quite a bit of support material, and we're going to continue that trend clearly with the reform qualifications. So don't worry about that. There'll be plenty of material to support your teaching and learning in terms of the delivery and supporting on the assessment side as well for these reform quals. And no doubt we will be having more webinars, keeping you up to date in terms of the reforms as we go along this journey with yourselves. And then, so just to kind of give you a heads up on that guys, really. And then just as a footnote, if you like, because you can see the slide for yourself, but we do have associate vacancies. So we are looking for colleagues in the various trades that I've mentioned for construction to help support in terms of development of these qualifications and indeed others. So if you click on that link, you'll see what vacancies are available. And if you've got any interest in those, please do kind of follow the links and apply as it states. What I always say for those who've met me is you always need to get your permission from your principalship to make sure that you can, if you're interested in working with Sitting Gills, to make sure you can actually have that permission to do so. So please do that if you would. So moving on. So this is really just a kind of summary in terms of how we communicate with you, how you communicate with us. I've already mentioned the fact that we're going to provide lots of support material. So, that's through our Smart Screen platform. We do have a LinkedIn dedicated web page. You can see there, and what we've done is provide the links directly to that, so you don't have to kind of find it on our web page and our construction web page on the Sitting Gills platform. So we've got our LinkedIn opportunity there for you to communicate with us and share stories, information. We've got a construction email, so you can see again, we'll provide the link there for you. So we access this, we have a look at this relatively often, I have to say, just to see, because sometimes we do get comments in there and questions in there, and that is absolutely fine. Very often, as you know, guys, questions come directly to Jason or I typically, and we respond in the normal way, as you know. But nevertheless, it's useful to know there's a construction email there. We have an event page, Eventbrite web page, which obviously gives some details of what future webinars are coming up in terms of not just reforms, but in terms of the entire portfolio offer that we have in construction, of what webinars that's coming up. And as you know, guys, I've typically done a series of webinars on endpoint assessment, and I will be repeating that at some point in September 2024. And then we've got a go-to webinar channel. So that's where we kind of populate our webinars that we do. So this one would be on this, not now, literally now, but obviously very quickly after this webinar closes. But it's a series of webinars covering a whole range of subjects that are on there, so you can access those. As you know, we do send you the slides for those of you on the call. Those who have not been able to join will also get the slides, and we'll send the link to this recording so you can again listen to it at your leisure, or pass it on to a colleague who's not been able to attend, be able to listen to it. But like I said, if you click on that link, it will take you to this recorded webinar as well as some others. So a number of kind of avenues there. Now, very often Jason and I, internally, if you like, we get asked if we're aware of somebody who might want to develop some knowledge questions, to look at developing some practicals, to be a marker, an assessor, scrutineer, whatever it may be. So a little bit different to what I previously mentioned, where I had that link to associate vacancies, which is like the formal kind of offer of a role within Sitting Gills. This is really for Jason and I, so that, and it worked very well, I do have to say. There's the QR code and a link there to it. But basically what we do, we just ask you, if you think you might be interested in working with Sitting Gills, but you're not pressing the associate route in terms of a formal application, because there's a vacancy there. There are no vacancies here on this. This is for Jason and I, really, so that when we get asked internally, do we know some carpenters, do we know some bricklayers who might be interested in developing a series of questions, then what we do is we look at what's populated in here. So what you do, you access it through the link or the QR code. You basically put your name, there's a drop down menu of what you might be interested in. There's about 7 or 8 items that I previously mentioned, because you might want to be interested in 1 or 2 aspects. You might want to be interested in, for example, writing exam questions. but not necessarily developing practical assessments. I don't know. But there's an opportunity for you to indicate which areas you might be interested in, and then it goes onto that platform, and then Jason and I can access that platform. So if we are asked, do you have some joiners who may be interested in developing some multi-choice questions, we can pass those emails internally onto those colleagues who will then potentially be in contact with yourself. And like anything, guys, it may well be if you have filled that in and someone does contact you and you change your mind, that's absolutely fine, not a problem whatsoever. The sooner you have got an initial interest, the sooner you put your details on that form, and then like I said, the world changes, as you know, so, and things change in your life and in your job, and you may not necessarily be able to be available to develop X certain amount of work. So that's really the end of this this webinar. We'll leave this on while we just have a look at, see if there's any questions, just in case you want to look on the QR code. But as Jason mentioned earlier, you will get a copy of the slides, and you will also get a copy of the recording. So I'm not sure if there's any questions being asked. Let's just have a look.
The only two, Paul, is you've already answered them. So one was about getting a copy of the slides and the recording. So yeah, everybody will get a copy of the slide deck. It will be in a PDF format, and you'll be able to access the recording also.
Okay, thanks for that, Jason. So yeah, it doesn't appear to be any more questions. As I said, this is really an initial kind of dip into, from a construction perspective, into the reform qualification. So we won't stop there. As I said, mentioned earlier, there will be some follow-on webinars to keep you in the loop in terms of reforms, as you'd expect from us. So really, it just leaves me to say thank you very much for attending the webinar, and thank you also to Jason for joining on this joint webinar presentation. Much appreciated, and I hope we have a good day. So thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful half term if you haven't already had it.